Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Economic Development Planning Committee. We're going to start today at 6 o'clock. Is there any discussion from the committee members or legislators? If not, we have a speaker tonight. This is Jan Zunglo from Montgomery County SBCA. Pulse torch.
Pull it towards you.
So I did 3 speakers.
Good evening. My name is Jan Zunglo, President of the Board of Directors of the Montgomery County SBCA, and I have here with me another board member, Maureen Rossi, and she is our treasurer. This evening, I come before you to discuss the Montgomery County SPCA, and specifically our desire to build a new animal care and adoption center. Over the course of its history, the Montgomery County SPCA has been an important part of our community, caring for the community's animals in need and adopting those abandoned into new homes. We also provide countless programs that have a direct positive impact on our community, including humane education for the area's youth, care for the animals of the victims of domestic violence, investigation of animal cruelty and neglect, and partnering with local human service organizations to teach meaningful skills to those with disabilities. Your support of this initiative will ensure the animals in our community will be kept safe. Last year, our organization was involved in investigations of 12 claims of suspected animal cruelty or neglect. These cases resulted in 50 animals to be taken into our care. Animal cruelty is often identified as a bridge crime. An individual who abuses animals is likely to abuse a person. This new facility will allow us to investigate more suspected cases and house more animals who need our help. This new facility will allow us to increase our capacity for the animals of the victims of domestic violence. A 2017 study showed that 89% of women who had companion animals during an abusive relationship reported that their animals were threatened, harmed, or killed by their abusive partner. Our partnership with Catholic Charities of Fulton and community counties to house these pets removes a roadblock for these survivors. Our new facility will allow us to help more survivors of domestic violence. We will also be able to expand the number of local children who can attend a humane education program. Studies have shown that students who are exposed to humane education are more empathetic and less likely to bully. Furthermore, students who participate in humane education learn the importance of treating animals with respect, which ultimately results in a more caring community. Finally, we anticipate our new animal care and adoption center will result in hundreds more animals finding new homes. Adoption will always be the core of our work. A new facility will ensure our community's pets and those who love them have the best facility possible. What we have in front of you, or to the side of you, or behind you, that is a rendition of our building. It is going to be 2 floors. You'll drive around to the basement of the building where we will have a full surgical unit in the basement area. I did provide, and hopefully you had a chance, if not, to look over the booklet. It does give you an idea of all our features that we will have at the shelter. We've also provided in there financial information for 2018 and our budget for 2019. And, well, I'm going to go over what you have in there for some examples of neglect and cruelty cases. Why we're here tonight is for 2 requests. The first request is asking for a $20,000 annual funding for services of neglect and cruelty investigations conducted in Montgomery County. The $20,000 will be used to help pay the fees for on-site veterinarian evaluations of every companion farm animal on the property. That's all part of the investigation. You have to do each individual animal to have it hold up in court. Pictures of every animal for the court case, feed for animals kept on site until their removal, which can be several days, transporting animals to Montgomery County SPCA and foster homes, feed and medical care for the animals until they are surrendered or resolution is reached by the court. Boarding farm animals, behavioral training to make them adoptable, trapping equipment, hazmat suits, veterinarian services for ongoing vet care, medication, vaccinations, and preventative treatment. This is what we're asking for the $20,000 for. What we have here is on the one sheet in your folder is examples of neglect and cruelty cases handled by the Montgomery County SPCA. What we wanted to show you here is we gave you a snapshot of 3 years so you could see that we really focus on the entire county. The 2019 church, a cat that was found, unfortunately needed its leg amputated. It was just a cat thrown out in the street. And this is just for veterinarian fees for that cat. It was $3,546. Then we had Charlene, a 3-year-old dog, town of Amsterdam, hit by car, owner never brought the dog to the vet. There are charges against the owner. The dog was emaciated, excessive hair loss, had severe itching, dermatitis, flea tumors, parasites, and Lyme disease. And her surgery was a cost of $3,175. Again, this is only the vet bill that we're paying. It doesn't include all the other costs involved. 2018, we went to the town of Canajoharie. It was 32 cats. They were evaluated by a veterinarian on site. Just for spaying and neutering, treating their viruses, vaccinations, $3,612. In October, village of Canajoharie, Wrinkles, the puppy that was thrown out of the window. The diagnosis for Wrinkles was 5 broken bones, front paw, a broken left rear femur. Wrinkles was thin, covered with fleas. Just for Wrinkles surgery was $5,900.
Jan, I saw that dog today. It's doing
Did
really
you?
well. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well, it jumped on me and it was running around. You know, it was so happy that it
Yeah.
recovered as well as it did.
Excellent. Yeah, that's what we find with a lot of these animals. The day before they were abused, they come into our care and they're
Yeah.
happy to be with us. And,
Yeah,
yeah, they
they did a
turn
great
around.
job with that, for sure.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. 2017, we partnered with Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, and there was a seizure of 48 farm animals in the town of Charleston. The animals consisted of horses, pigs, sheep, cows, donkeys, and goats. And in here I did add some of the cost of transportation and boarding and vet care, but that totaled $10,000. It really was almost twice that, but we had a lot of people who made donations of feed. A lot of them kept the animals and they paid for the food on their own. They paid for the vet care. And again, another one in 2017 was a trailer park in the town of Florida. 33 cats. We trapped them, had them spay and neutered, vaccinated, tested for any diseases, dewormed, and treated them. A lot of them had viral infections and fleas. And just again, vet fees were $3,800. So you can see where the $20,000 will go. And we can do more investigations, but we're limited due to finances. And I just want to say about Wrinkles, how that worked out with Wrinkles. Mentioning that we strive to have a working relationship with law enforcement. And that was the Village of Canton Area Police Department who handled that case. Well, Officer Collins, I had worked with him several years ago on a horse neglect case. Well, he happened to call me in the evening and happened to be having a meeting with Maureen. We were meeting, and we get this phone call from Officer Collins saying about wrinkles, and all his concern was he needed a vet. Nothing else mattered to him. Well, within 15 minutes, we got him a vet where wrinkles could go right over to the vet. By 9:30, that dog was in the care of a vet.
Yeah.
So that's our partnership that we have. We have a great working relationship with law enforcement. And it was good that he got to see somebody right away. This is what we do with the help of law enforcement, with the help of veterinarians. They work with us so well. And volunteers. Couldn't do without the volunteers. Now what we ask for is the help of the county so that we can only continue helping the homeless, neglected, and abused animals. It's so we can help more. There are more out there, but we are limited. We're just limited with our staffing and our finances. So I hope you can consider, take into consideration our plea to you for $20,000 on an annual basis to help out these animals and make it a better community. Secondly, what we came here to ask for is funding from the county to help us with the construction costs of the animal shelter building. I believe I included in your folder, I'm hoping, it's just kind of a summary of the Montgomery County SPCA about the building, the cost, features, our assets as of March 31st. And just to give you an idea how much the building costs, how much we have, how much we need. The Montgomery County SPCA Animal Care and Adoption Center will be an asset to the community. Features of the center will include increasing the aid for more homeless, neglected, and inhumanely treated animals. Low-cost spay and neuter clinics for dogs and cats open to all residents. What I didn't put in there, but I'll mention because you weren't aware of it, that a feature which is listed on the summary is we are going to have a full surgical unit in our shelter. For our shelter animals, for the animals that we investigate for neglect and cruelty, we'll have that vet to go out with us on these cases. We're always looking for a vet. And for the public's animals. We are going to offer low-cost spay neuter to the public as well as vaccinations. We will have adoption-friendly dog kennels and cat rooms to increase adoptions, because if we increase adoptions, it allows us to take in more animals. We are going to have a parrot sanctuary. Their lifespan is 70 years. What happens is people aren't able to take care of them for one reason or another for the 17 years, or the parrot outlives them. And the parrot becomes ill because they're not being properly taken care of. They start pulling out all their feathers. So we're going to have the sanctuary right in the shelter for their recovery. We're also going to have a monarch butterfly nature preserve. Their populations are decreasing. These are going to be 2 attractions that's going to increase tourism in our county. And what we'll also have is a community room for the education of proper animal care and behavioral training. We'll have day camps for kids. We'll have opportunities for Liberty clients. We have groups of them already coming to us. We've already set it up with Liberty, where every day they will have their clients coming into the shelter and they will have jobs that they will be performing at our shelter. We're going to have on-site classes taught by HFM BOCES. We already have that worked out with the teacher of the animal science class. They want to come on site and do their classes because they also have hands-on in the surgical unit with the veterinarian. And what we all do at this time, and will continue, but the schools would like to do it at the shelter, is reading with pets program. We go out there now with pets to different schools. Kids are reading, all sitting on the floor, and we got a dog walking around them while they're reading, or a cat. And we do it every year with schools. They would like to come to our shelter to do this. For revenue purposes, what we'll have is boarding for dogs, and in the future for cats. We're just finding out more that travelers want their cats to have more than a one-day visit, that they would like to have them at the shelter. They've been having good luck with cats being boarded at shelters. We're also going to have a doggy daycare. That is for residents, dogs, owners. And this is just the beginning of what we will do upon opening the new animal care and adoption center. The future is going to bring much more for us. I thank you. And does anybody have any questions? Because Maureen would be more than happy to answer them.
I'm just curious, do we donate anything currently this time, the county?
No, you do not.
Do we pay like on a per case basis if the sheriff office drops something off, or?
No.
Okay.
And we are open to the sheriff. We don't have a contract with them. We have it with, a few municipalities, but we'll take an animal from any area in Montgomery County.
And you're looking for 20,000 per year?
Yes.
And that's for the new building, or just for general revenue?
The 20,000
Yes.
is strictly for neglect and cruelty investigations. It will be, we have a separate account set up for neglect and cruelty investigations, and it will go into that account and will only be used for the neglect and cruelty cases. Thank you.
And where's the new building going to be located?
It's on 5S.
Similar to where the old one?
Yeah, it's a little closer to Amsterdam. It's a kind of across from the transfer station or that storage unit. Used to be the old incinerator, if you know where that was. There's 22 acres there. That was donated to us by the city of Amsterdam.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Yes. Jen, you have agreements with other municipalities, right?
Yes, we do.
Kind of a gives to get. But are other municipalities contributing to the capital fund? Because my concern is that typically if the county does something like this, there has to be something, we have to get something in return for what we're spending. So the $20,000 agreement is probably something that's doable, but beyond that, for the capital campaign, I'm not sure how we could structure that. Go ahead.
All right, sorry to jump in here. So we initially met a number of weeks back, and we took a look into it and found that, just as a direct donation to a capital campaign, we can't do that. You're exactly right. But in our discussions, we talked about, what services that they're providing that, we could support in the future for the public good. So that's, part of the reason why we, kind of shifted the focus a little bit to talk about the cruelty cases, but also, some of the exhibits and things that are going to be at that center that could actually potentially even qualify under tourism funding potentially next year, that you could use for capital expenses, but you're exactly right. So.
The other thing is I'm concerned that Wrinkles is unduly influencing a legislator.
Change Michael's name to protect
Thank you.
Change the name to protect the innocent.
I'm going to be here all week.
Thank you, Mrs. Zimba.
Thank you.
We originally had 4 resolutions. We're going to pull number 4 resolution to establish the Montgomery County Legislators Lead Agency. So if there's no more discussion, I'd like to go on to the resolutions. First resolution is a resolution recommending approval of amendment to the revolving loan fund for Carolina Clubs Incorporated, Economic Development and Planning.
Chairman, excuse me for a minute. Jan, do you want to step up? Do you want to step up to get this, or do you want to take it now?
He's getting there.
Got it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Is it okay, Madam Clerk? Can we proceed? Thank you. So do we have a sponsor for that resolution? Do we have a second? Brian, thank you. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Ken, I didn't get from the exhibits that were provided, an essence of just how much this business may be struggling and or in arrears. Can you define that for us? I mean, we certainly want to help anybody pay their loan back and give them grace or extensions or things of that nature. That's the business we're in. I understand that, but I do want to get it. It seems like this was a second, from what I read, a second request of this nature, or maybe more than a second request.
Yeah, this would be the actual second request. The original loan, just so you guys are aware of some of the background, the original loan date was February of 2019. The original loan amount was for $145,650. To date, the Carolina clubs has paid back $127,000 of that, and his remaining balance right now is $18,621.
That's good.
So he did come before the IDA board because we did send him a default letter. We went out and visited him, and he's really struggling, but he's also one that's actually making payments when he can.
Mhm.
So what we talked about with the IDA and Legislature Patel was there too, is trying to restructure it in a way, that he could make ends meet over the next 5 years and pay this off. Because he's not one that's walked away from this. He's dedicated to the area. It's the town of Charleston Industrial Park.
Yep.
Obviously, there's not much business out there. We kind of came up with terms that he could afford.
Mhm.
We could go in actually in the collateral. We do have a first UCC position on the equipment, but if we do that, we would be shutting it down.
Sure.
This was sort of like a type of negotiation. Legislature Patel was for it at the IDA meeting. I don't know if you want to add anything to that as well.
No, we had a pretty long discussion about it, and there was pros and cons on both sides, but the sense of it was that, the gentleman had paid off $124,000, and this is a short amount of money that was secured by a piece of equipment that if you went to auction, you really have no idea what you're going to get out of it. So we felt it was a win-win situation to work with him to make payments that would help him.
And what is your proposed structure of extending him here on that?
We're going to extend them. The IDA came to an agreement on what they passed at the last meeting was it would be amortized, take the principal of $18,000, we amortize it over the next 5 years, and then the first year would be interest-only payments with a balloon payment on the 6-year payment, which is about $3,000.
You said the original loan was made what year? I'm sorry.
It would have been 2009.
2009.
2009.
All right. Because it sounded like, boy, you paid off a whole bunch rather rapidly. What's gone so wrong so quickly here?
He's been struggling and chipping away, and really one of the big things is that when we first, he actually moved his equipment from Florida, and because he was actually sourcing materials in the Northeast,
Mhm.
so there was a relationship that was established. He actually moved the manufacturing equipment from Florida, and then some contract stuff changed with Major League Baseball, so we lost that contract to provide mats for Major League Baseball. So that's where it started.
Thank you. Thank you for your detail. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of moving it to the full legislative body, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution is moved to the full legislature. The next resolution is a resolution petitioning the Commissioner of the Department of Agriculture and Markets to correct an error in Montgomery County Agricultural District Number 2, Economic Development and Planning. Sponsor, Mr. Pep, Mr. Sweet, Legislator Sweet, Legislator Pep. Thank you. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstained? We'll move that to the full legislature. The last resolution is a resolution scheduling a public hearing to review of Agricultural District Number 3, Economic Development and Planning. Do I have a legislator to sponsor that? Legislator from the town of Florida. A second. Legislator from St. Johnsville. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? We'll move that to the full legislature. Under other, I had the opportunity this week to visit a company that we loan a short amount of money as far as industry goes. And it's Executive Interiors in Amsterdam. And they started off with one building that they bought at foreclosure. They bought it from city foreclosure. They removed over $100,000 of tires out of the building. They rehabbed it, and then they bought the former FGI building. We have a quick rendition of some pictures of that I'd like you to see, and I think you can appreciate the quality of work. They actually took and stripped everything out of the buildings except for the sprinkler systems, redid the electric work, redid the plumbing, tore up the floors, put 3 inches of concrete, and then invested several $1 million of their own cash in equipment, if you would. Just thought this was impressive that where our money went, and it's a real success story.
This is the FGI building?
The FGI building. Originally, they were in Building 8. That's the low bay.
Prospect?
I'm not sure what's happening.
No, at the end of Willow Street,
Oh, okay.
all the way, the one you can see by Big A.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I don't know what this is.
Boy, it's spotless.
They use about 10,000 gallons of white paint.
Must have used a lot of bleach.
Ken, I couldn't get it to open through the YouTube link, so I'm on this page. Where is it?
It wouldn't be up there yet, because it was just made for today's thing. Is that where you
Andy,
put
Andy
it?
sent me 2 links, so I think this is the one right here.
No, that's the commute. That's the video we did last year.
That's the commuter, the guide to work.
Years ago.
Yeah, they're blacktop in the road between
Hang on.
27 and 28.
Yeah. I got caught on that today.
Okay, I mean, if you can't do it, I
No, just
mean,
1 second. You got all night. What's everybody else
Were
saying?
you a teacher in your previous life?
All right, let's try this.
Proceed to be on the TV.
This, the Montgomery County works with the program does, there you go.
The massive renovation of both buildings. I mean, it's pretty much, we're gutting them down to the concrete shell and putting everything brand new. So that's, new water service, electric service, gas service, all new, heat, electrical, conduit, transformers, panels, paint, pouring in concrete floors, epoxying floors, framing in offices, break rooms, bathrooms. So everything that's in the buildings that you see, floors, walls, and ceilings are brand new. Our goal is to have both buildings fully renovated inside and out. But it's only 173 miles from Midtown Manhattan, so that's far away, but still close enough where we can operate and be within 3 to 4 hour drive away from at any given time. You have different hotel franchises that have signatory features to the hotels that when you walk in, okay, you know that this is the Ritz-Carlton or the Graduate or the Ace Hotel. Those are all projects that we're currently working on. It's a pretty diverse areas of millwork that we're doing between the guest rooms, the public space. We're also doing a country club in Long Island, Equinox headquarters in New York, which is office spaces. So we're diversified in terms of the different areas of millwork and hotels that we do, and also outside hotels with those projects as well. We had an opportunity to relocate the millwork shop and keep all our warehousing in the metropolitan area of New York and relocate the millwork shop to Amsterdam, New York, and that worked out very well. It was 4 times the amount of space that we operated in downstate, and so we were able to grow that side of the company. So then after that, we had an opportunity to buy a building in New York, and we decided at that point we were going to relocate all of our business to one building in Amsterdam, which was approximately 330,000 square feet, almost triple what the spaces that we leased out in downstate. So it brought our overhead way down, and our total opportunity for growth grew.
Just to note also, they employ now, within 1 year, they employ 72 people. They pay very good wages, well above minimum wage. I mean, in $20 and $25 range with health insurance and pension plans. So for Montgomery County, I think that's a great score. And wanted to thank Ken and Matt and everybody that was involved in helping them out with this. And it's a great thing.
Mr. Chair, are they using that building just to do mill work to facilitate their projects in the city, or are they going to renovate any part of that building for tenancy or anything of that nature?
Well, right now,
What square feet? 330,000.
And what they do is they fit up a hotel, and if there's 300 rooms, then they take 10% of that and they store 10 extra rooms in that building, all packaged up. So if something happens, they have a fire, in 3 hours they can be down there with the equipment. So they rent space out for that, and they sell that additional 10%. What they do there is, in one building, building 8, they take and they will store plumbing supplies, benches, mattresses, all that. In the FGI building, they take raw lumber and they mill it with high-tech equipment, laser equipment. They have a high-tech finishing machine, which you saw there, which applies the finish to it with no hands touch, stacks it and dries it. They have a dryer. They have, it's just a great place to work. Everybody that I talked to when working there was very happy. And if you see, when you come up Route 30, you'll see that they've replaced some of the windows, which makes a great difference in the view of that building and in the community. They intended to exchange every window in that building.
Ken, what did they pay for that building?
It's really kind of a private transaction, but I believe it was probably under 200,000, right around that range. So that's the FGI building. I remember, like Legislator Patel said, they actually acquired the other one through the auction with the city of Amsterdam. So what you see was the FGI building on the 3rd floor. Now the intent, obviously, they're on a full 3rd floor, including the sign that's going up Church Street. So their intent is to do each floor at a time, because they're looking at that type of growth. So it's really a nice vertically integrated company, and they're actually working with a couple other local companies, actually in the city of Amsterdam, to do some of their work on the dressers and beds and stuff that they do as far as cutting. So that was.
You know, and your other question as far as leasing, they are looking into leasing space to possibly a drapery company or somebody that can complement their business and that they can warehouse and have everything for.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We'll call the end to this meeting. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
I don't think
It is all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We adjourn at 6:35.
Did you have 6:35?
6:33.
Call the Physical Services Committee to order, 35. Discussion. All right, we'll go right to our first resolution then. Resolution authorizing the county exec to execute an intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Canajoharie wastewater treatment plant and Montgomery County Sanitary District 1 for sludge treatment disposal. That was last one. Oh, I get the wrong one? This one here?
Yep.
Okay, resolution amending the 2019 budget, sanitary district 1. It's easy. I have a sponsor. Legislator Pat. Legislator Diamond, Legislator Pat. All those in favor of moving to full legislature?
Aye.
Discussion first.
All right, well, I have an amendment here that I'm gonna read to you right now.
No, that's the next resolution, that's the last resolution.
Okay. Resolution authorizing the,
We need discussion for this one first.
for the District 1. Okay, there's an amendment to that tipping.
This is the amendment.
Okay, we're gonna have a discussion on that and then a vote. Resolution authorizing the increase in tipping fees amendment for the county legislature. Resolution budget sanitary district number 1.
We're still, this one's still open, the floor's still open on this one. So, discussion and then all in favor.
Okay,
So,
discussion?
Chair, just to clarify, pretty much everything that through sanitary district is self-sufficient is passed through, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's the fund balance is from the sanitary district. It's not our fund balance.
Okay.
all in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain?
Stay.
So, all those in favor, move to. Okay. Okay, now the resolution amending the increase in tipping fees.
No, not that. This one, amending budget.
Transfer the position to Public Works. Discussion?
Sponsor.
I'll sponsor.
You sponsor?
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of moving to full legislature?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? So moved. All right, now the resolution authorizing the increase of the tipping fees, county legislature, amendment, tipping fees for the county legislature. Legislator Sweet, Legislator Pat. Any other discussion?
Now you're amending. You have an amendment.
All right, okay. Amendment to the tipping fees resolution. Whereas recommended by the Montgomery County, increase the tipping fee from $8.50 per ton to accommodate the increased costs to be similar range with other municipalities. Therefore, it be resolved that the Montgomery County Legislature authorize direct tipping fees of Montgomery County Transfer Station by $8.50. Further resolved, increase $8.50 per ton shall take effect July 1st, 2019. Do I have a sponsor for that?
I'll sponsor it.
Legislator Pat, Legislator Sweet. And now we got to vote on the amendment.
Discussion on the amendment.
Pardon me?
Discussion on the amendment.
Discussion on the amendment? Any discussion?
That's
Legislator Diamond.
Chair. Matt, I was wondering, we had a consultant look at that.
Yeah.
Was there, I didn't see any verbiage, or was there any consideration on if we do raise the tipping fees, which I'm in favor of, do they have any direct correlation to less volume?
No, and we're still, the full report isn't done yet, but given the request at last month's meeting, I asked to send a snapshot related to the tipping fees. And the thoughts of the outside help was that, given that we're significantly below what others are charging in the area and what the market is, that they don't expect a any huge fall off in tonnage. And quite frankly, most of our charges and the mechanisms are per ton, so even if it did fall off, that really wouldn't have an impact. It would be, we might have, less expenses or less revenue, but we'd have less expenses as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we're gonna vote on the resolution, vote on the amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So we'll move. All right, now we gotta vote on the resolution as amended. Sponsor? We don't need one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? We'll move it to forward. And now I go to. All right. Anything other? Motion to adjourn? So sweet, let's let it go.
Who's second?
What's the time?
Kelly.
6:41.
Honestly, you're
That's all right.
We never stayed in line. We never stay in line.
I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee meeting to order. Is there any discussion at 6:42? Anybody have any discussion? We welcome the district attorney to our meeting tonight. She has a little presentation for us. And it's very nice to have you. I think this is the first time you came.
Well, in a very long time. I was more comfortable sitting up there.
Probably.
I thought that was a hot seat. This is a hot seat area back here. So thank you very much. I think everyone got a memo or something that I had an increase in my salary, and a question came up as to why I did not make the request in my 2019 budget. So just to give you a little background, the judiciary laws 183A ties my salary to the county court judge in the county. And it is 95% of the county court judge's salary in Montgomery County. Other counties it's 100%, and some counties it's even higher than the county court judge's salary. This was done back in 2015. So we have no idea when their increase is coming along. The state does it. It's not done on a local basis. So we are advised in April when those decisions are made. So just before April, actually I think it might have been after April 1st, I was notified, we get notified by DASNY, it's the District Attorneys Association of the State of New York. We all got notified that our salaries were increasing. Nothing we have any control over, we don't lobby for it, it just, by statute, it's set up that way. So I would have no way of knowing back in 2008 when I was making my requests that I would need to increase at least that particular line item. So that's why we submitted the resolution for approval. It is mandated. If I had advance notice, or if we have advance notice, we certainly would have notified you well in advance, or I could have prepared for it at least in my budget. But they don't do anything until April, so I don't get notified until April. And every county is in the same position.
Okay, do we have any questions of the district attorney, Mike?
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Is there any predictability to it insofar as a tolerance range? Is it usually 2 to 5%? And is that something you could plug into your budget in the fall, knowing it would fall within that range? Or can it be any any place on the board, and it makes no sense to try and prepare for that expense rather than.
I don't know how, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't know how I would prepare for that, because we don't know what the judge's increase is going to be.
Okay.
They don't know what their increase is going to be, whoever they have lobbying for them knows, but that never gets passed on to us to be notified. We rely on the DA's, Don Dasney, to let us know. And actually, it's kind of a surprise to everyone that we're like, oh, okay, you got it, sure.
So you don't know, do you know that it's gonna happen every year? You just don't know how much, or is there a way to go back over the history and say, yeah, it's always fallen, it's happened every year and it's fallen in the 2.5% to 5% range. I'll budget 4% for it, so I don't.
It has not happened every year.
Okay.
It happened in 2017, and it happened, I believe, last year and in 2019. But we don't have any piece of legislation that comes to us and says, and you can expect it in 2020 or
That's all.
anything like that.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Chairman Hidewell has a question.
No, I think it was answered because of what I was gonna make note is, this isn't something that usually happens every year.
Right.
And in the last couple of years, it has happened. So
Seems to
it was like, maybe they're looking and saying she's doing such a wonderful job, we have to give Kelly more
That
money.
was statewide, all the counties in the
Legislator Nyman had a question, Kelly?
Yeah, well, no, first, again, appreciate you coming. Obviously, it's not the amount of money that was our concern with the budgeting process.
Right.
But I know it happened in 2015, 2017, 2019, so it seems like every 2 years, the judges get a raise, which does affect you, so.
If I get notice, I certainly would, because it would be a lot easier just to submit it than to come and stand before
Yeah,
all
we
of
never
you.
really question the amount, it's just.
Why I didn't budget it? Right. If we do
Because I
have
think in
advance.
2017, when I was chairman, we took it out of your travel money or something. We found it within the budget.
Right, and then probably toward the end of the year, we're coming back for more money. I can tell you on some of the, because Nancy gave me this, and I was looking, just to give you an idea, that I kind of have a bare bones budget in my department. And, anyone that knows anything about grand jury, I'm already probably 3/4 of the way through my budget for steno bills for grand jury. It's just, I don't want to say out of control, but everyone's doing their job and making the arrests, and they're going through the grand jury process. So there's nowhere to move money around in my budget right now.
Understood.
Legislator Nyman?
But I guess it's safe to say there's no way to forecast this because there's no historic data that says
Right,
it's going to happen.
right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Kelly, is the percentage the same for every municipality?
No.
How do they determine that?
By size of the county. If your county's over 50,000 or under, we're at the 95%.
Okay.
There's a middle group that's at 100%, and there's another group that I forgot what the cutoff score in population, but it's your very large counties that are actually their district attorneys are making more than their county level judges.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's not equal then, in other words?
No.
No, okay.
So you have two choices. You can
Legislator Nyman?
advocate for people to move to Montgomery County.
I do that. After we do a criminal history on them, I ask them to move to Montgomery County.
Legislator Nyman?
DA, there was some additional talk that you have some additional expenses you want to discuss with us?
Not
this
tonight,
time?
not tonight. I have something else. I want to put a whole packet together.
Okay.
And then on another issue, I dealt with Eric Mead, and he was extremely helpful.
Okay.
And so that issue has been resolved. And just so you know, with regard to Wrinkles, that woman had pled to a felony and is currently in jail. She's serving a year. We don't negotiate on animal abuse cases in Montgomery County.
We
Plead
appreciate
to the
that.
charge and go to jail.
I like that.
So that,
Thank you.
animals and children.
Just another wrinkle to that case.
Like, not that you have a vested interest or anything, but.
Very good, Kelly. Is there any other questions of the district attorney? And we want to thank her very much
Thank
for
you.
coming tonight.
Thank you.
It was very pleasant to
All
have
right,
you.
anytime. Have a nice evening.
Nice to see you on this side of the fence.
Well, I like it better now over here. Maybe you can handle all the questions.
Okay, Okay, if is there any other discussion, we'll move along to our first resolution. And we need a resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, Montgomery County Local Government Records Management Grant, data processing. Is there a sponsor?
Sure.
Legislator Pep? Legislator Sweet? Okay, is there any discussion on this? Is that in addition to what was, Matt, I can't see it back there.
Yeah, sorry.
Is that in addition to what we had before, is that?
It's really, more of an administrative change within the current grant that we have. It's taking money from what was originally allocated for a part-time records management clerk and allowing us to use that on a contractual basis to further along the implement the grant.
So it basically came out bigger than we had anticipated a little bit?
Yeah, I think just, kind of shifting just the focus based on how things have gone, and, basically using that 13,000 to contract for the service rather than having, just hiring a part-time person to do it. We found that that's a better way to go.
Any questions from the legislators? Okay, shall we take a vote and move to full board?
Aye.
All in favor, aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we'll move it to full board then. The next resolution is authorizing the county executive to sign an agreement with the New York State Defenders Association, NYSDA, and amend the 2019 operating budget, public defender. Do I have a sponsor for this resolution? Legislator Sweet? Dan? Okay. All right, and now we're having a discussion on this.
Chair, we need an amendment for this for the resolve clause. It should say March 31st, 2024.
Okay, we're changing it to March 21st?
March 31st, 2024 in
Okay.
the resolve clause.
That'd be an amendment or?
We just do it as a typo since it's in committee.
Why don't we do it as a typo, no?
That's fine.
Can we do it that way?
Yep.
It's not really substantial. All right. Is there any?
Not a full board then.
We don't wanna go back and forth like that. Is there any other discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Next resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, Department of Youth and Veterans. And we have nobody here to explain that. Okay, well, first of all, sponsor. Dan is a sponsor, or do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Legislator
Matt said he
Hyman,
would
okay.
explain it.
What's that?
Executive said he has some information.
Okay, Matt, can you explain that a little bit?
Mid-year, we moved the mail process to the annex building. It is now being overseen by Brenda, and we've utilized the veterans van drivers as backups to the mail material specialist. Given that that was a mid-year change, now she's paying for gas and fuel and things of that nature. So when she asked about this expense, I said, well, could you please find it in your budget? She did. You'll see it's coming from the director position that is not there right now. And to fund those minor expenses, those expenses will be included in her budget and not DSS for the upcoming year.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from anyone? Legislator Martin?
So being that we've moved that out of the DSS budget, will the Youth and Veterans Department be billing DSS for the
There's a
background?
portion of it that can be, and we've discussed that, through inter-office charges and things of that nature.
Is that going to add to the, is that going to make people delayed even further?
No, we're talking about, $3,000 worth of gas here.
I don't
and
want to
division.
add, I don't want to give someone another. excuse
Quite
for-
frankly, Martin, the whole reason behind doing this was, why is, the financial unit in DSS operating the mail, and why am I getting so many calls about mail from a department, so, talking with, our youth director, we made the switch to free up time over there, so this wasn't a source of, time and energy over And it's actually worked out really well. Very happy with this change, quite frankly.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Very good, let's move on. Resolution amending the 2019 operating budget, accepting an additional Stop DWI Crackdown Enforcement Award. Do we have a sponsor for that? Legislator Pep? Legislator Sweet? Okay. All right, is there any discussion on that? We have no one here to discuss that tonight, I don't think, right, Matt, or no?
For the DWI one, this is another one of those that's new award revenue coming in, accepting that revenue and putting that expense in the line so they can move forward.
Yep, very good. Any other questions for that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, is there any other discussion? Do I have a sponsor to adjourn the public safety meeting? Dan, legislator Dan?
Second.
Roy, okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Myself? Oh, for the record. Oh. All right, we'll call the Education Government Committee to order at 6:56. First thing on the agenda is a discussion of the committee members or legislators as a whole. Anyone have anything to discuss? If not, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the FMCC budget. We have tonight here the new president, Greg Miller. Come on forward and let us know what you got. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Does everybody have a copy of the, I have copies if you'd like me to.
If you have any extras, because I emailed them to everyone and I don't know if they have any.
We've got hard copies, so
Yeah.
pass out if you want. Thank you, sir. I'll leave the email. Good, how are you tonight? Good, how are you? Okay, so we'll start off with the good news. The good news is we're not asking you to increase your contribution this year, so, and we do thank you for your support in the past. As usual, we've included a little background information for you, including our enrollment trends, which have unfortunately not been positive as they haven't been in much of higher ed right now. And to reflect that, we've made some changes to our budget. Our budget for next year is proposed to be about a 5% decrease over this year, and that corresponds, with what we're expecting and are anticipating in less revenue. We have a change at the state level in terms of the way that they are funding community colleges. They have, in the past, it's always been on an FTE basis, and now they have passed what we'll call a floor, so that they will fund, and we do fall in this category, they will fund 98% of our current year FTE level. So even though in years past what has happened is if we suffer from an enrollment decline and they give us an increase of $100, say, we still lose money. So they've put into law now a safety net, which will benefit us this year. So even though there is a $100 increase if we were above that floor, since we didn't meet that floor, we will be at 98% of last year's funding in terms of the state. So that helps stabilize things, and we're grateful for that. We have put in a $300 increase in tuition, which is more than we like to do, but it keeps us in the middle of the pack in terms of community colleges, so we're not the most expensive community college. Unfortunately, we're not the cheapest either. However, we feel that this puts us in a place that's competitive. We are proposing to use about $300,000 of our fund balance to balance out the budget, and we put in some information there in terms of the amount of money that we spend per FTE, which tends to be around the lowest in the system as well.
Excuse me, Judge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where does the increase put us in relationship to the contiguous community colleges?
Right.
Schenectady, Herkimer, Hudson Valley, I mean, the closest ones that people could drive to and choose between us and somebody else.
We're very comparable to what we understand that they're going to do in terms of, at this point, when people are putting out their budget proposals, they send out the polls, how much are you guys thinking about increasing?
Yeah.
So Schenectady is anticipating being a little bit cheaper than we are, but the other schools that you referenced, we are very similar in terms of what we anticipate being. So how did we get here in terms of being able to meet our decrease in budget? We've reduced about $1 million out of our budget. A lot of that came through personnel. A lot of it came through, again, tightening the belt on some of the supplies and software expenses that we've seen. Where we were unfortunately hit, if you look at the bottom of page 4, we reference our health insurance this year. We saw a 25% increase in premiums, which is something that even today we met. We have a campus-wide health insurance committee. That's the one area of our bargaining units that we can open the CBA at any time and renegotiate. So we have an ongoing conversation going with each of our unions to look at how do we address that, because we can't sustain 25% increases in health insurance. So we had a very productive conversation today. We'll be putting out an RFP for insurance in the fall. We did an RFI, so we got some proposals back, and we I think are at relative agreement on a new direction that will help to reduce that and control that expense moving forward. So the rest of the packet just goes on to present the expenses and the revenue in various graphical form. We have our actual versus proposed budget on page 10, so you can take a look at where we are this year, where we're proposing to go next year. That also helps you get a sense of where we are with our fund balance. We like to keep that, the magic number, you want to stay above 5%. So our proposed budget moving for next year does keep us above that 5% floor. And if you move on through the packet, you'll also see where we break out the revenue, we break out our grants, and then you'll get to our 3-year plan, which is on page 15. We like to share that with our county sponsors so that you see that we are projecting forward and looking at how we can maintain the level of our fund balance and keep our expenses in check while our revenue and stabilize our revenue and not grow our revenue. So on page 16, you'll see assumptions that we've made that our 3-year plan are based on. So at this point, I will pause and allow you to ask me any additional questions that you may have. A lot of information in there. And I know our purpose today is to set a public hearing, so we'll have further opportunity to discuss this as we move forward.
Greg, you feel that the FTE, I see, is going to remain stable over 20 to 22?
Yes.
What's the thought process behind that in a declining environment?
Right. So we almost feel like we're at the bottom of the curve. With enrollment in community colleges, it tends to be cyclical, and it tends to follow some of the broader economic trends that are going on. And when we look at that, when we look historically at how that plays out, we feel like we're at the trough, and that we hope that in the next few years we'll be able to climb out of that. We also recognize that one difference today versus, say, 10 years ago, or actually 20 years ago, is that we have a smaller group of students locally coming into us. So we are looking at strategies on how do we bring students in, whether that happens to be from contiguous counties or from downstate or international students. Focusing more on our adult population. Our average age at the college has tended to be very low for a community college, 23. So that tells you that our students are traditional age college students. We also know that we have a substantial number of adult learners in our communities that haven't pursued a higher education. So we're going to look at how do we market to that population, how do we target them and get them involved in what we have to offer. And so we think we have a number of solid strategies put together that will help us at least keep a stable level of enrollment through the next 3 years. And if not, we'll make adjustments every year as we've had through the last couple.
It looks like, looking out into the future, you're doing a good job of not invading your fund balance, at least budgetarily speaking here. It's only going to go down. Looks like you're going to use maybe the following year another 50,000, and then maybe only 5,000.
Right.
So, obviously that involves maintaining revenues and expenses. Because the size of the budget is growing too much. From this year through the third year, it's in the $17.5 million range there.
Right. And we've, as part of this, what isn't part of your packet, but what we've been working on internally too, is further controlling our costs as we move through this environment as well, and making sure that, we know that we have most of our budget is personnel. Personnel costs go up every year, so how do we manage through that as well? So we have those discussions going on.
You cut off almost $1 million worth of it, and it was a bold move that you had to make.
Greg, do you do any recruitment at the local schools? I know a lot of times I have children who just went through the process of, graduating high school, going through college.
Yes.
A lot of times they're not given the option to say, try a 2-year school first to see, obviously it's a lot cheaper than going to a 4-year school. And a lot of times they're not even given the opportunity or the idea of a local, 2-year school.
Agreed, and that is a battle that the community colleges have fought for their entire existence. There is an emphasis, and I speak as a parent and as a school board member as well, there's always an emphasis on sending the children to 4-year schools. And we've neglected that many of our children aren't necessarily ready for that. And that a 2-year, not only is it an affordable and quality option, but it's the right decision for some of our students who are just not ready to move away.
Absolutely.
We do have dedicated local recruiters. We spend a lot of time in all of our local school districts. But that's a cultural thing that we've had a challenge battling with. We do spend a great deal of time every year with the school superintendents. And when they're in the room with you, they're with you, and we just have to get that message to persist on into the school counselors, who we also meet with regularly. But there's also been a change at the state level in terms of when we had the latest is ESSA, and I'll struggle. I won't know exactly what the acronym stands for, but the latest thing with ESSA, and school districts get points for the more children that they get into higher education opportunities, whether that's concurrent enrollment, whether that's sending them to a 4-year college or some other post-secondary opportunity. So they're now going to be penalized for not doing that. So that's another challenge that we'll have to face. One of the biggest growth areas for our enrollment has been in the concurrent enrollment area, where we're offering credit-bearing classes in high schools. We do that in every school district in our local BOCES area, and that has been an area of growth for us, except that it's not the same revenue. So we charge 1/3 of the revenue, There is also, one of the changes in the state legislature this year was a law that now says you don't have to charge tuition for that. Many community colleges were not charging tuition. We always did because the law said you had to. So now there's growing pressure on us to take that revenue out of our budget as well. So we're trying to navigate those waters, and that'll be a challenge for us because of our 2,400 students that we have right now, about 1,000 of them are in the high school. So that's a big chunk of revenue that we'll have to try to maintain.
Thank you.
That part was always a pet peeve of mine because I worked in the high school for 33 years, and you know, and I always thought that if you could get more of the kids involved in college and high school, that your enrollment would grow. Trying to get more of these students hooked. But the problem is always getting these students to come up with that $300 or $400 when they didn't have it. And when they had 1 year already done in the high school, and then they would go to FM, they would be able to complete a 2-year degree with one year. So I understand, but I also think that by charging less or not charging them and getting more involved, you're going to see more part-time or full-time students in the long run.
We hope that would be the case. Under the current scenario, we would have to triple the size of our enrollment to make up the revenue that we would lose, just because of the way that the funding is. One thing that we've done in the last couple of years to address that very point is we offer scholarships to students in the high school, and every student the last 2 years that's applied for a scholarship has received one, and that reduces that cost in half, which is comparable to what the University of Albany does with their concurrent enrollment program. And it's a fair point, and there's always been the issue of equity, and the same thing as held for AP courses as well. You could take the AP course, but you also have to come up with the money to pay for the test at the end. And so I certainly understand the arguments, and for us, the challenge will be making up the revenue if that revenue goes away too. So we certainly wouldn't stop doing the program if suddenly the revenue went away. We would have to figure out a way to fund it though.
And I think also the other thing is we went up and visited FMCC, and I think most of us that were up there were shocked at how it's changed over the years. And I think that the parents in this area in Montgomery County remember FMCC maybe what it was and not what it is now. So I mean, like, you're out recruiting the students, but it's also trying to change some of the parents so that they can see what FM has to offer and how much money it could save them by sending their kids there for a year or 2 years versus going to those 4-year schools.
We have a targeted marketing campaign, and I don't know if you received the letter, but we send the letter to the parents and we show them how much they would save by sending their child to us for the first 2 years. And it ranges, depending on where you're sending them, but it ranges anywhere between $90,000 to $125,000 over the life of a bachelor's degree if you start at FM. So that's definitely a selling point. And everybody that I talked to that's come to our campus and hadn't been there for a long time or who had never been there comes away impressed, and we're very proud of that fact. And so it's how do we get more people on campus and how do we get them excited about the opportunities that we have to offer. So we appreciate your support.
Do some field trips with your seniors.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that is one thing. Some of the districts do that with their concurrent enrollment program. They will bring them down and we give them lunch, we give them a tour, we get them involved in going in and looking at a class, and that's been an effective way because students have a certain perception of FM, and then they come and see us and they get excited. So.
Any other questions? Do you have anything else to add? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you. All right. I don't else under, so we'll go on to the next resolution, or the first resolution is a resolution setting the date of the public hearing on FMCC's proposed 2019-2020 budget. Need a sponsor? Senator Pep, second. Senator Diamond. Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution is a resolution amending Resolution 148 of 2019. I need a sponsor. Senator Pep, second. Senator Wilson. Discussion? There's no discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. The next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter into agreement with Napoli Shkmaklik.
That's about right.
Skolnik. Skolnik. You say it.
I'll take your pronunciation.
Okay. To commence litigation, pharmaceuticals. I need a sponsor. Senator Diamond second, but Senator Pep, discussion.
I actually have one comment, first
Okay.
of all. So just some background on this. There's a lot of litigation going on right now about price fixing for generic pharmaceuticals. And it's moving very, very quickly. So this would be the right time to jump in if we wanted to do that for this litigation, because we are self-insured. We definitely have had some cost associated with this potential price fixing. So this would be a way for the county to recover some money, potentially. This law firm is the one representing that will probably be representing the majority of the counties in New York State. We're one of the first ones to jump on. I do need an amendment. Somehow my revisions to this and the next resolution did not make it through. And we just need to do a revision to the resolve clause at the end that says, after it says contingent fee shall be 25%, need to add with costs not to exceed 5%. That's something that I was able to negotiate. No other county so far has negotiated a cap on their fees. And given how expensive costs can be in these litigations with experts and everything else, I wanted to make sure that we were protected in that, and that anything we recovered wasn't going to be just going right into cost. So that I would request an amendment at the very end, just adding a sentence that's after shall be 25% gross fee, just an addition of with costs not to exceed 5%. And I would need that same amendment on the next one as well.
Okay, so we have a sponsor for the amendment?
So moved.
Second? Senator Diamond. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right. Any further discussion on the resolution as amended? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So carried. The next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county executive to enter an agreement with Napoli Shkmaklik. Sound Russian, right? And to commence litigation, 911 surcharges. I need a sponsor. I'll sponsor. I need a second. Senator Wilson, discussion.
I'll make it on.
So we're gonna make the same amendment.
Is it in the first, be it for the result clause?
Yeah, after 25% of the amount recovered, just with costs not to exceed 5%.
Chair Headwell sponsors. I'll second. Any further, any discussion on the amendment? Not. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Okay, back to the resolution as amended. Any further discussion? Not. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So carried. Next resolution, a resolution authorizing settlement of litigation commenced by Fulton County against Montgomery County related to the parties' intermunicipal agreement for waste disposal services dated March 6, 2014. I need a sponsor.
I'm a sponsor.
Legislator Bertel, second. Legislator Duchessis. Discussion.
Yes.
Go ahead.
We'll just take a moment to recognize the work of our county attorney, Megan Mannion. I think that you did an excellent job here given the circumstances, and I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair? Mr. County Treasurer, just a question, Sean. I know we've reserved for this for quite some time, and I know the reserved amount set aside to handle it is greater than the amount of this year's installment. So my question would be, can we discuss how much we had reserved in an open meeting here?
Yeah.
It was a 300, wasn't it? Or 400?
400,000 is in the deferred revenue account right now.
All right, so what is the plan for the difference? That leaves $1.75. Are we gonna leave it there to use it towards next year's installment?
It'll
Or
stay there. If you use the 225 out of the 400, the 175 would remain in deferred, and you would have to budget the additional 50
okay,
in the 2020.
I like it. All right, I just wanted to make sure it didn't flutter out the window to cover something else someplace else. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? So carried. Anything else under other? If not, I need a motion to adjourn. Legislator Diamond, second. Legislator Wilson. Okay,
7:21.
7:21. Gotta make sure he was on the committee.
Thank you.
I don't know, we find a way sometimes. All right, good evening. I'd like to call the Budget and Finance Committee meeting to order at 7:21. Remind this is a committee of the whole. And we'll open up the meeting with any items for discussion. Hearing none, I'll move on to our first resolution of the evening. It's a resolution establishing a petty cash account for history and archives. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Wilson, second Legislator Sweet. Any further discussion on it? Hearing none, all in favor of moving? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, Legislator Kelly, yes.
Do we have a policy how petty cash is to be dispersed in departments and such?
Petty cash is only used in cases of, in instance, to make change or whatever. It's not to actually purchase items.
Right.
It's for the purpose of making change for, in this case, our copies of the archival records.
And also like in
Yes, and there is a yearly reconciliation sign off that every department that has a petty cash has to sign off that they have that petty cash in
Yes.
We do not have a county-specific policy, but it is governed by County Law 371, which has pretty specific guidelines.
So there's something, it's not just money sitting there, and a year later we reconcile.
Any other discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of moving it to full legislature next week?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you, carries. Our next resolution approving abstract of audited claims. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Isabel, second Legislator Sweet. Any discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor of moving it to full legislature next week?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Our next resolution is a resolution authorizing the sale of real property acquired by tax foreclosure, Town of Palatine. Do I have a sponsor?
I'll sponsor.
Legislator Kelly, second Legislator Pertel. Any discussion on this resolution?
Sure.
Legislator Diamond.
I guess I give this quite a bit of thought, and as my responsibility as a legislator, my first response would be, let's, this has been back and forth since I've been around. Let's hand it over to the town of Palatine. As everyone knows, there's kind of a conflict there, and it's something that, some of the legislators I spoke with, we don't want to get involved in the politics of it, which I agree with. The issue for me, being that this is in my district, is that, I went through the Wagner house fiasco. I've gone through the Stone Lodge which now finally has been stabilized. And I just don't want to see another vacant property. My suggestion is that I think the current board is going to move this process ahead. There seems to be, and this has been going on for as long as I can remember, whether it's a town barn or there's a divisiveness to it. My suggestion would be that we hold off till November, so that in fact, if there is a change in the makeup of the board, it's just not going to sit vacant. Where if the current makeup stays the same, then I'm sure that this would progress. So my recommendation to the board is that we table this till November. We can vote on it in the November meeting, and at least we'll know it's going to move forward and not be stopped at its tracks.
I guess my question would be, of the names of the people on the resolution that was passed 3-2 that we have here as an attachment, are they all up for re-election? Are they appointments? Will that happen months after? I mean, how much more time will this protract out if we choose to implement your recommendation? I'm unfamiliar, so I'm asking.
Yeah, there's only one that's up for, I think the supervisor is up for.
But does
No,
that
there's two board
Council.
members.
Yeah.
Two council
They both up for re-election?
and the supervisor, so 3.
3 out of the 5 could change in November.
Yes.
Potentially.
Legislator Patel.
All due respect to Legislator Diamond, we've dealt with this long enough. This is not a political issue that we should be in the fight for. I don't want to see any property left vacant either, but that's their responsibility. And I think recently and often we've been put in positions to make some decisions based on some local jurisdiction. We had a similar discussion we've had, and I think that we need to realize what our place is. This has gone on since the last auction. That's been over a year. I don't want to get into making decisions for other municipalities. My decision in representing Montgomery County is I'd like to see this moved on, and let's do it.
Legislator Sweet.
I have to agree with Legislator Patel. This is also in my district. Obviously, there was a resolution passed by the majority of the board. I don't think it's our job to second guess them. Otherwise, we're going to get involved in a lot of things in a lot of different municipalities. Our job here is to say, you want it, we're going to give it to you, and let them make the decision from there. I agree, I don't want to see vacant buildings, but to postpone this would be kind of a slap in the face to the current board, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any, yes.
I understand, Brian, what you're talking about, but I also have a letter right here from the village of, from the library in regards to the village of Fonda, which the village of Fonda wanted over years ago. They wanted a building on Main Street in the village of Fonda. We gave it to the village of Fonda, and now that sits vacant and has sat vacant because they thought that the county was gonna come in and take it down for them and do some more work. So again, this building, we did give it to the village of Fonda. The village of Fonda, all their board members voted for it. We gave it to them, and we're sitting the same thing. And I don't want to see the building sit vacant either. I tend to agree with Legislator Diamond here that we go ahead and do this, and then come November, you get a whole change of people in there, and the building sits vacant again. Because if their makeup changes and they don't want to use it, where we're going to be. So.
Legislator Patel.
With respect to the chairman's comments, those were decisions that we made. They accepted it. They accept the liability of it. The more buildings that we continue to own, the more we establish liability for, whether insured or not.
we often are a target because we have deep pockets. I just don't see any advantage for us to do this, and if the climate changes in November, then they decide they don't want it, then we're stuck for another 6 months until it goes to auction again, or we sell it. I think this has run its course, it's been to auction. I respect everybody's opinions on this, but we're not in the business of owning real estate, and I just want to see it moved on.
Legislator Chessie, you seem to have something on your mind.
I do,
You know,
always. And this is.
share it with us, please.
Well, in this instance, certainly we're free to grant this property to the town, and we think that's perhaps the highest and best use. But we don't put any restrictions on it, that they would develop it in the manner that they say they would. And so that's what creates the doubt that the property would not be rehabilitated. So I think maybe in this instance, or for sure in future instances, we should have that as part of the conveyance. That way we can take the property back more easily if they don't follow through.
I do believe, though, there was discussion they want to use it as some kind of, didn't we get a purpose on it?
Town hall.
Town hall.
Well, it's not a question of how they want to use it, it's a question of whether or not they make the improvement that they said.
Necessary. Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Okay. Yes, Councilor.
To Legislator Duchesne's point, we did put similar restrictions on the stone launch conveyance. When we did that if the property remained unused in 2 years, it would get conveyed back to the county, so there are ways to accommodate that.
So you said you did put that in?
Mm-hmm. That was on this stone lodge conveyance to the land bank.
Not in this one.
That was
Yeah,
part
that
of
was
the,
a prior
land
property.
bank.
Do I need to amend it? Is that what you're saying? Or I don't need to amend it?
Oh, you could amend it. You could amend it, and we have a past history of doing that.
Okay, because that's what I would like to do.
All right. Well then, yes, Legislator. I guess I just don't, I understand Legislator Patel said, but we own the property now, we've gotten it back several times. I just don't understand what difference 4 months is gonna make. I mean, there's, the town of Palatine makes me a little nervous with what they do, and so I think, that we should have some oversight. To give you an example, if you watch the YouTube videos, it's 5 members on the town board. It's 4 councilmen and a supervisor. They had a motion this last time. One councilman was absent, the supervisor abstained, and 1 councilman voted no. So it's 3 no's, 2 yeses, and they passed the resolution. So that's why I feel that we kind of have to have a little more oversight than we normally would. The main thing with the parcel, it comes back to us because there's no easement. You have to go through the people that own the thing there. So my point is, we say yes today, we approve it next week. It goes to the current administration, which they're interested in going forward. And then November, the administration changes, and then we're back to where we started. It's not our problem. It's the town's problem, but it's a eyesore. It's a vacant building in my district, and that's why I'm a little bit passionate about it. We own the property. We don't have to go. It's gone through the auction several times. We don't have to wait to get the property back. It's our property. Legislator Patel.
In reference to that, it wouldn't be just 4 months because it would end up we'd own it to the next auction.
No, that's incorrect.
Why? What would we do with it if they didn't take it?
If there's no change in November, they would just take it. We would vote on it in November.
So if they decide that they're not going to take it, though, the risk is 12 months, not 4. And I don't want to discuss that. That's not that important. But it is a risk. This is a property that, as you stated, has no egress. Okay.
Correct.
It's really not saleable. We have a sale on the table for $5,257. Bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush to me. Okay. And you know, the people that own the plaza, they could have bid on this several times, they didn't, they don't have any value for it. Stewart's property, I think, is also joining this from the other side, they didn't want it. I honestly, I respect your feelings on this, but I don't think it's the right thing to do.
All right, so, legislator Kelly.
I believe there's an amendment.
Well, that's what I was about to, would we like to introduce our amendment? All right, I will introduce an amendment to the resolution that states that, Counselor, help me, which line should we add the 2-year clause to?
It would be under the further resolve, if you wanna do a 2-year conveyance back if it's unused, or what, how,
Yeah,
what kind of conditions were you
Legislator
envisioning?
Jessica, what were you looking for? If it's unused or improved?
Well, I'm looking to be consistent with the reason they requested the property.
Okay. So, if
If no improvements have taken place and planning to turn that building into the
Town hall.
Town hall.
If it's not in use within 2 years.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can go in there and do one change to it, then you're improving it, that's not what we're looking for.
Very true.
Are we discussing this, or what are we looking for language, what are we doing?
Yes, we're looking for language for
Crafting
potential
amendment.
amendment
Jointly.
that will potentially facilitate it being passed or declined based on a 2-year period to renovate it. So how should we?
Do you wanna say if it remains vacant, conveyed back unless approval is given by the legislature for it to remain? I mean, you have to consider in this situation, it might be vacant, but it might be under construction.
I think it may have been premature anyway, perhaps we should wait to see if this is actually gonna go to the legislature, and if it does,
Yeah.
I'll make my amendment at that
Yeah, let's,
time.
all right, let's take a vote let's do a straw, or station by station vote on the amendment, or on the resolution as presented.
Aye.
Okay. Legislator Kelly.
I believe I sponsored it, so aye.
Okay. I can't do a roll call on
Yeah.
committee, so
Yeah.
Legislator Sweet.
I think we're just spending an awful lot of time on something that, it's kind of a moot issue. If we give it to them and then they don't want it, we get it back. It's ours now, in 6 months it's ours again.
We don't get it back though.
We will, eventually.
No, because there's no taxes on it. It'll never come back
Will
before
we ever get
foreclosure.
it back?
Well, if you give it to the town and they make it exempt, we're not gonna foreclose.
Okay, so,
But to be exempt, it has to be used for municipal purpose, so if they don't do anything with it and it's not being used by.
so before we do a straw vote, why don't we make an amendment? Because obviously, if you make the amendment so that within 2 years, if they're not using it as a town office, it comes back to the county.
All right,
Why don't we do that rather than do a straw vote on the resolution as it sits? Would that be good? I think that's a good way to do it. Within 2 years, if the building is not in use as a town office, it's conveyed back to the county.
Or for a municipal purpose, maybe?
Yeah, well, yeah, because they may use it for a court, or I'm not sure what their exact purpose is, but.
Legislator Patel.
I don't see any reason why we want it back. There's no advantage to a zone. If they take it, they take it, okay, that's theirs. For the small amount of money that they're paying, and they accept the liability for it, then they accept the liability for it. I think by adding any language to that, we risk getting it back again in a condition that's worse in 2 years. They have a fiduciary responsibility, if they buy it, to do the best for their town. Okay?
Because no one ever's gonna want it. I mean, no one is.
But that's,
I'm agreeing with you.
yeah, let's just, we sell it, okay? If we put restrictions on it, then that's the opportunity for us to get it back. If it falls into disrepair and they say, well, geez, it's not affordable to do anymore. Or we discussed it and this is now an $800,000 rehab. I don't want the property back. We're not in the real estate business.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that's the point precisely, is the way we manage the conveyance of derelict properties. So everyone here it seems to be anticipating that this is going to be happening again through some foreclosure process or something. Well, they wouldn't be paying taxes, I think, on that. At any rate, that the building's going to be sitting there derelict and then nothing's going to happen. So it's really not for me, it's not a question of giving the property away. It's trying to find a mechanism to ensure that it'll be redeveloped.
Jared just added this, that if the current, and I'm repeating part of myself, but if the current administration stays in November, they have the funds already. They have plans, they have ideas to go ahead. If the current, if there's a new administration in November, there's all sorts of expectation that it's not going to move forward. So again, I throw out, what does 4 months make? At least we know in 4 months, either it's going to go ahead, be developed, they have the money, or in 4 months, it's not going to go ahead, and we're not going to see an eyesore.
Can I say roll call? Any committee?
I think we need a roll call. I think we need a roll
Okay,
call.
so we have an amendment
Yes.
made by you,
Yes.
and who seconded the amendment?
Do I have a second on that amendment?
I'll second.
Legislator Duchessis. I think we've had discussion on that amendment.
So we're roll call on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Legislator Peck,
Yes.
Legislator Isabel,
Let me see, hold on a minute, please. It's been kind of a confusing discussion right here. I'll say yes.
Legislator Patel,
No.
Legislator Kelly,
I'll say yes.
Legislator Sweet,
Yes.
Legislator Diamond,
Yes.
Chairman Hedwell,
Yes.
Legislator Wilson,
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes.
So the amendment passed.
Okay, now we vote on the resolution as amended. All in favor of?
The roll call.
Do the roll.
Okay, Legislator Kelly,
Aye.
Legislator Sweet,
Yes.
Legislator Diamond,
No.
Chairman Hedwell,
No.
Legislator Wilson,
Yes.
Legislator Duchessis,
Yes.
Legislator Peck,
Yes.
Legislator Isabel,
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
Yes.
Resolution passed. Move to the full legislature.
All right, thank you. Our next resolution is a resolution accepting bids, 2019 real property tax foreclosure auction. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Patel. Second, Legislator Wilson. Discussion. Legislator Patel.
I was really pleased with what we ended up with on this. Initially, it didn't look like we were going to do as well, but I think we did really well for what we had. And Sean, how did this compare to the taxes that were due on these properties?
I have an answer to all profit and loss because it all hinges on who actually comes in and closing on the property, so. As you can see by the resolution, the gross amount of bids was the 418,000 plus, but it's all contingent on the approval of the bids by the ledge and the actual people coming in and closing the properties.
There's an idea of what was out on it?
I don't have it on me, but I have it for next month, or next week.
Plus or minus?
Oh, it's definitely a plus.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of moving this to the full board?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Our next resolution is a resolution in opposition to state legislative proposals that could undermine the careful balance that exists in state law
related to the tax foreclosure process in New York State as proposed in statute 4676/A.4863. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Sweet. Do I have a second? Legislator Wilson. Discussion.
I have discussion.
Legislator Duchessis.
Yes, what is the genesis of this request? Who's put it forward?
To my knowledge, and I will give you a little frame job and then extend it over to the treasurer. County treasurers were made aware of the fact that this was a pending state law that may go into effect. The New York State Association of Counties has made them aware of it. Currently, given my last conversation with him, as many as 20 counties, and perhaps he's discovered that more have already passed this resolution. It's designed to have potentially create less income for us insofar as interest and penalties. It's also designed for people to jockey the tax foreclosure process and manipulate it like they once were able to do by paying the oldest year's taxes and keeping it out of the tax foreclosure frying pan. Because right now, the way it works is you got to pay them all. The current year, the second, 2 years, 3 years back in order to save it from tax foreclosure. So as discussed here in the resolution, the ramifications of that on each individual county financially, also as far as having more of a burden of properties that are 2 years in arrears on the books, and that people keep saving from tax foreclosure by paying the oldest year's taxes. That sample size could grow as well. Sean, can you add any more detail to that?
Yeah, this was actually, it was through a combination of the county treasurers, and NISAC is also sponsoring this. What it is, it potentially compromises the tax foreclosure and tax collection process. Kind of to repeat a little bit of what Legislator Pep says, it allows a reduction of fees and interest. It potentially, counties can set their own interest rates if this was to pass. It eliminates the reverse chronological order in which they have to pay. So in essence, people can play the game and be perpetually 2 years delinquent on their taxes at all times. It allows, in essence, what it does, it unfairly shifts the burden of the taxes to the people that actually pay the taxes. And like I said, it would definitely be a revenue loser for counties. It would definitely have an impact on the revenue of counties.
It wouldn't positively affect revenues, only potentially negatively affect.
Correct.
I wouldn't ask anyone here to try to make the argument to the contrary, and I don't understand what that might be myself. But I can't believe that the legislation was created out of some evil intent or something. What is there some? What are they getting at? What are they trying to do?
It's a big push from the Westchester, Long Island counties. Because of course their taxes and interest, which is far exceed the
More
amount of
burdensome.
taxes paid in your upstate counties. Like I said, the listing of counties that I have approved or pending in this, of supporting this opposition are all upstate counties.
I appreciate your time, because I don't think anyone in the state legislature is waiting for our opinion here, but I just wanted to. Thank you.
Like I said, I was asked by, like I said, the Treasurers Organization along with NISAC if I would bring it in front of the to try to oppose this legislation.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of moving it to the full legislature for approval next week?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Our final resolution, I believe it's our final. Yes, our final resolution is a resolution adopting policy and practice guidelines for the county executive to determine expenditures, limits, and priorities of the 2020 operating budget. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Diamond, second Legislator Kelly. Discussion, I'll leave the discussion. You have the handout here. This is the form that and you'll see items highlighted on it. It is the chronological order of our responsibility along with the treasurer and the executive as to how we should attack the budget. Just to bring to your attention, you will see that on Tuesday, August 13th, which is that the second or third? I think we may need to have a budget workshop.
It's the second.
Second. So we will have a budget workshop meeting independent of committee meetings that month for the purpose of reviewing our particular, our line items as the legislature, and also the clerk of the legislature budget line items. And then you can, I'm not going to go through this line by line, but you can see a similar time period here. The budget will be delivered by the treasurer to the legislature in the middle of the week after Labor Day. Monday, September 10th, they will come before us and we will discuss a variety of things, discuss the budget. The clerk will hand out hard copies for budget amendments, which must be returned by the following Monday, the 16th. Potential straw votes on Monday, the 23rd, for those amendments. And also on Monday, the 23rd, we will have our 4 major departments coming in to discuss their budgets as we have historically done. And I guess what I wanted to throw out there to you as well was, do we want to add a 5th, the public health, simply because it has become a larger operating department as well. Let's say, were you going to say something?
I'll be way out of town for work that week.
Okay. We will miss you. Yeah, we can Skype you in. And then a series of public hearings. So you get the idea. It's something you've seen every year, but just to let you know, that's the way it's, the chronology of events there. So, and yes.
Yeah, just on page 3, it actually should say for the 2020, and I'll give you guys an updated one. This page says that at the bottom.
Yes.
And thereabouts, it should say 2020 for organization 2019, 2020.
Yeah, you gotta change, revise it, okay. All right, any other discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, all in favor of moving it to full legislature next week?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. All right, we'll now move on to our dashboard reports. Yes, he's gonna speak. Yeah. Dashboard reports. I will go over with you, not a lot of change from last month. We are 42% of the way through the year here. 41% of the way. So anything, any revenue line item less than 36%, any expense category greater than 41% are worthy of discussion. Sales tax, just a little information on that. As you can see, Sean's comments, we're trending about 2% higher than last year, year over year through May 31st. And as you can see from the numbers, that's approximately 150,000 greater year over year. If we were to continue on a 2% pace through the rest of the year, year over year, that would probably generate revenues in the vicinity of $31.5 million sales tax revenue. You can see that our budget's $28.8, so that would be a few $100,000 shy of a $3 million improvement over our budget. That said, a cautionary tale. If you all recall, a couple of months ago, the state passed this AIM legislation, aid and incentive to municipalities, and as a result, they're going to be cutting that aid to towns and villages, and instead paying them out of sales tax sometime commencing in the 4th quarter. So we could see some of our sales tax money eaten away at in the 4th quarter, and then it will continue to carry on in that fashion
into 2020. That will just be the advent of when that process starts. So certainly it's just something I wanted to bring to your attention. The next category, state aid DSS, claims recorded through April. We don't have the May claims yet, but they have till June 20th to submit them. And for your edification, no reconciliations have been done yet for 2019 still. I will add to that the fact that Bonadillo is in looking at our audit for the purpose of creating our year-end financial statement, paying specific attention to the DSS area this week, and they sent some extra people to take a look at it to see if the filing of claims and reconciliations can be tightened up, not procedurally, but the dollar values that we saw on the audit, to see if they were properly handled and on both ends, hoping that perhaps that deficit we saw from the information we looked at last month will be tightened up a little bit there, but we will have more on that next month when we look at this report again.
Sure.
Yes.
Speaking of
Legislator Sweet.
Speaking of the AAD, will Bonadillo be coming to present at the end? Will they come to present that to us?
We can have them do that.
Say July, you were gonna come?
What's that?
Didn't we
Well,
say?
I would say, I'm guessing it would be August, September that they would have a completed printed copy of financials, so that'll be on, I'll work with Cheryl and them to schedule up.
We'll either have to do it on the 13th or the 20th.
Like I said, it all depends on hinges
In
on
August.
when they complete it.
Right.
So technically, we have until the 30th of September to complete the audited financials.
I will say their presence, although certainly welcome in the month of September, we got more meetings and Carter's got little pills. So I don't know where we're gonna be able to fit them in, but we'll fit them in. You know, I mean, everybody seems to be interested in that. All right, state aid other, you can see that that's not tracking, it's tracking a little slow in the 31 percentile. Some of those areas, public defender, at 105.5 out of 586, mental health at 937,000 out of 3.6 million, mass transportation at 28,004 out of 569. We did this math. You don't see that on your report. Economic development, 18%, or 197,000 out of 1,095,000. Some of that is a function of claims being submitted. The good news, public health, in that figure you see there of 2,791,000, state aid other year to date, public health tracking at 1,002,000 of that, and tracking well so far in year to date 2019. Federal aid, the same explanation as the state. Claims through April, anticipating May. No reconciliations yet for 2019. Federal aid other, it's such a small amount, 74,000 total in the budget. But they need to spend the money before they can claim it there, so that's why there's no activity there. Our education expenses up higher, and on the expense side, simply because half of our FMCC contribution has been paid. And our spring semester chargebacks to other community colleges have been paid as well. That'll catch back up as we move throughout the year. Transfers out, you can see they're at 57% and done on an as-needed basis. The county road fund, miscellaneous, a small category there, just 14,000 in the budget. Not tracking great there, but certainly not a monumental figure is going to skew our budget much at all. CHIPS is the same story every month. We'll be reimbursed as we submit invoices based on work performed. Transportation expenses up simply because we've paid half the year's snow contract and we're not through half the year yet. Nothing to report on the road machinery fund and on the health insurance fund. Same explanations as last month. Intergovernmental charges at 29%.
That's billed on a quarterly basis. The second quarter will be billed in July. That'll climb back up into, green category after that. Other fringe benefits, FICA and disability paid in full for fund employees earlier in the year. So nothing really changed month over month there. Some of it, we wish had changed, obviously, based on what we discussed last month, but we should be more to come on that once Bondeo is done performing the audit. That said, I guess, we started off the evening with a Zoom below, and we're gonna end the evening with a Zoom below. So, and that was not by design.
It worked with any armor, but it don't work anymore.
Legislator Patel.
Before we entertain discussion with Mr. Zoom, can we talk about the assets and liabilities?
Absolutely.
There's a $3.5 million difference in our total assets over last year.
Yes.
We're 3.6 million less in cash.
Yes.
We've got due from other funds $1.6 million.
John?
So I'll have to give an explanation to that. I don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
I'll follow up with an email.
Yeah, you can give us an email. Sure.
But I will make the comment that as your fund balance continues to decline, your cash balance is going to decline.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, our auditor, Marco Zumbolo, here this evening by invitation. As we've tried to do a couple, 2-3 times a year, have him come in and talk to us about what he's been working on. And that's why he's here tonight. Mr. Zumbolo, Marco, please come forward and enlighten us. Thank you for your patience this evening.
My virtues, being patient. What I put together, since I've been here about a year now, just a little bit over, I put together a bunch of numbers on what we've put through the office so far. So for the year, we've processed approximately 8,000 plus combination vouchers and purchase orders for payment, totaling somewhere around $65–70 million. Now, each one of those pieces of paper gets reviewed not only by Ann when she does the mathematical corrections for accuracy, and myself for also the mathematical, and to ensure that the reimbursements are allowable under our policies and procedures. We also make sure that there are times when we do pay sales tax, only because public health has to take children out for lunch or whatever else, and there's no way they cannot pay the tax on it. So what we do is we identify each one of those, and we give a report to Sean every month, so that we get that money back since we do pay it. Besides reviewing each and every one of these documents for the mathematical accuracy and ensuring that the expense is a legitimate expense for the county, we also ensure the fact that every one of them where a contract is needed, the contract is in our possession. It fits within the date, fits within the dollar and cents. There are times when there is no contracts, and we don't pay the voucher. It upsets a lot of people, but I can't help it. If you don't have a contract in place, or if it's expired, or it should have had one and didn't have one, we're not going to pay it. Not until we get the contract in our possession. And that issue has been around for numerous times since I've been here this year. All I can say is maybe you want to try a new approach with the department heads to make sure that before they send the voucher down to auditing to be paid, that there is a corresponding contract that fits what they're looking to pay. Because if not, they're not going to get paid. I mean, they can get as upset with auditing as they like, but we have too much exposure if we don't have the proper paperwork in place.
That said, Marco, and Sean, is there a central place that people need to keep their current contracts on file with in order to make sure, or they are left standing on islands? And I'm just curious, is any of that centralized in any way, shape, or form? Or is it, Marco has to see a bill, well, I wonder if that contract's still in place, and go track it down and see that it's expired or not done? I'm just curious.
I believe the contracts are centralized in the county exec's office.
Okay.
I believe all the contracts that get signed, ought to get a copy of them?
Yes.
So, the county executive, my office, and the auditor's office.
They all have a copy?
Yes.
Okay.
And maybe the holdup is there, because if we don't have the contract, and it's indicated either on the voucher or on the purchase order or wherever else, that it should have one. And we don't have one. Our first call, obviously, is back to the department. That's the first place.
Sure.
Or the executive's office, if you have a contract.
Yeah.
And if so, please send it down. Don't just say, yeah, I have one, then think we're gonna pay it. That doesn't happen.
No.
So we require a copy comes down, and we go forward from there.
Thanks.
We also run into issues as to allowable expenses. We don't just disallow it. What we do is contact either the individual, more than likely we contact the department supervisor who signed off on it, to say, look, you've got an issue here that I don't believe, and I'll say me, don't believe that it's a really an allowable expense according to our rules and regulations. And then we go from there. Where do we meet? Who do we meet with? Until we get the issue resolved, I know Megan and I have sat down in a few cases, a few instances where we had to make some tough decisions, and we make sure we do it with the department head and notify the individual involved also. So we have that. We carry out the contracts, and we do that, I hate to say, more times than we probably should have to. But it's all part of the job. Out of 8,000 vouchers, might affect 1,000 maybe, as far as the allowable expense. As far as contracts go, that's a whole different ballgame. So besides doing that, I carry out a bunch of special projects that were assigned by Mr. Headwell, varying from use of county cars to processing vouchers that are tied up in physical closing, all so that we can get everything paid timely.
That happens more towards
It happens in the first part of the year.
first couple of months, right?
Right.
Because I know we had a little backlog there, didn't we, in February?
We did.
Yeah.
We did. We worked it out. We did some work on it, we traced it, we figured out where some of the holdups might have been, and I think we got it pretty well squared away. There is no issue with that anymore. And once again, it's a one-man band. There's a lot of vouchers that go through physical closing.
When you say there's not an issue with it anymore, that means there won't be an issue with it next year, or you just resolved it
Well,
for
if I
this
knew
year?
that, I'd make money betting horses right now. Next year.
Well, I mean,
I say this year it is satisfied.
have we implemented a procedure whereby, or are thinking about implementing a procedure whereby it doesn't happen? The first 2 months of last year, is any thought been given to that, Chairman?
What happened, Mike, last year was that the month of November and December, there was quite a few departments, or a couple of departments, that spent an awful lot of money. So there was a lot of vouchers created in November, December. So what happened is those vouchers never really hit auditing until February. And as in February comes along, so now those are in fiscal closing, now you have the regular vouchers that are starting to pile in. So you have a mass. The only way that you can really get a good control over it is come October, pretty much say, we're only going to be spending money on stuff that absolutely has to be purchased, because what's going to happen is come October, November, or November, December, everybody looks and says, oh, I've got this much money, we gotta buy this, we gotta do this, and they kill the auditing office.
I do feel as far as physical closing procedures go, Sean's got a great program. I mean, he can lay it out for you, page by page. They're notified how early, October, November. He gives them a deadline when they have to be in by. He tells them what the procedure has to be, and everybody gets the whole packet. Every department gets one. And unfortunately, sometimes they ask for extensions, which then adds to the burden of normal work of paying January and February's bills, when also you're getting vouchers for blanket purchase orders, so everybody gets the money encumbered early.
We had vouchers in fiscal closing last year from July and August.
Well, I remember that.
I mean, they, which should never been there. I mean, there's mistakes that are being made by department heads of not getting things in when they're supposed to. And again, what happens is it just causes,
Causes a backlog. There's just no two ways about it.
But of course, what I begin to think here is the little exercise we did last year to see if people were spending down their budgets just so they could keep that amount of money in their budget. And Marco did a review on that, and it didn't look like it was happening too much. But, I mean, that's the next thought process.
Yeah,
Are people
I
blowing
don't see
money they
that, I
don't
don't
need
see
to
that
blow?
being the case. I think the biggest backlog came from perhaps turnover in processing physical closing.
Okay.
Turnover as far as personnel going within those departments.
Okay.
It's not a complicated process, but it's not easy either.
Right, okay.
So with that, I'd like to think that was only an abomination for that year.
Okay.
I'll let you know better next year if I'm still here.
All right, thanks.
Along with the material that Mr. Headwell and I discuss probably every month or so as to what projects he wants us me to look into and assist wherever those stand at the table. He's well aware of that, as is somebody that legislatures. The big item that we're working on now is between Dan Cologne, myself, Mr. Headwell, and Mr. Ossenfort, is we're looking at a project that I come up with a long time ago, which is printer consolidation. We did meet. We threw a lot of numbers out as to where the savings might be, might not be, could be. Programs, the way we felt as though may be the best way to run it. So what we come up with was we reduced it down to doing the experiment with just the annex building. Put a questionnaire together to help us decide where we could make the best uses of our time and money savings. That questionnaire was signed off by Mr. Headwell and Mr. Ossenfort, myself and Mr. Cologne, and they're in the process of putting that questionnaire together, which is going to go to all the departments in the annex building. And we'll see where we go from there. And I think the cost savings will be more in the line of buying material that would normally come through the bid process on printer, because right now everything's consolidated to a printer, copier, scanner. It's all, and finish it. A machine does it all. One machine does them all, and the argument that, well, I need a desktop because my material is way too important, I can't let anybody see it. That's history. Because it'll never come out of a printer, copier, scanner until you go there with your ID number and push the button to print. If you don't do that, it'll stay there forever. Nobody else can get it. So the biggest argument would be, well, I need one on my desk. And the answer is no, you don't. We'll put it along with the physical activity program if we have to.
But one of the things that we found, Mark, was how many different contracts that we have for maintenance on printers.
With one company, we got 8 different contracts. We probably got 6 companies. And we're buying printer cartridges from all over the place. And state contract, not state contract, and then I realized most of the time, IT has to go put the cartridge in a desktop printer, which is absolutely crazy. So we'll see how it goes. But it's a work in progress, and we're going to work with it. That's what I got for you.
Chairman Hannah, what else, I mean, Marco has alluded to a couple of things that you've had him work on. What else?
One of the big issues that we've been working on is the car usage. We're paying a lot on mileage for individuals. We're trying to make sure that everyone's using county cars when they're supposed to be. People still don't wanna understand what the policy is. Policy states that you're only supposed to get paid mileage when there are no cars available. We're trying to get that across from there. And there's, right now, it's something, there's,
Yeah, no, he
we
named.
talk
I just
almost every, a couple times a week on different things and stuff, so.
There's obviously more that
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say in this session.
Yeah, yeah.
And Megan's been a big help, really, I gotta say truthfully. It's worked out where we make sure, or take back, we think we're on the right page when we move forward. Any questions?
Any discussion or report? Marco, thank you for making yourself available and sitting here and waiting to come on stage. I appreciate it.
I know, I poor little puppy fella. What's his name?
Wrinkles.
Great.
All right, motion to adjourn. Legislator Kelly, Legislator Patel, second, adjourned at 8:16. Thank you.
Pretty big,
Oh.